Don't be stuck in a box. Don't be stuck in the United States watching jobs move overseas, feeling sorry for yourself when you can take your skills, you can go overseas, you can actually make more money for most professions and have a life of adventure and travel. All right, take, 3? Hopefully we can get through this video without screaming children. So what I want to talk about today is overseas work. Previously I made a video about how to get a job in Antarctica. Today I want to make a more general video about how to get a job overseas. So since 2010, so the last 7 years, I've worked in Afghanistan, I've worked in Antarctica, and tonight actually I am heading off for a 1-year contract in the Marshal Islands, somewhere in the South Pacific on a little island called Kwajalein. So, not a lot of people understand how to get started working overseas. There's some, simple but kind of low-paying jobs like teaching English. Though it can be a great job if you're in the right location, like if you're in South Korea, like my little brother, and you've got a bachelor's or a master's degree or above, it can be an excellent job. But if you're not college educated and working in the right place, it can be a pretty low-paying job. But teaching English is one way. It's not what I do. I do electrical work. It's pretty common for different tradesmen, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, HVAC guys, to have this opportunity if they seek it out, if they know how to get started. And then really the easiest type of job to be able to get into overseas work is as an engineer. If you're any kind of engineer, if you just look for the work, you'll be able to find it. But for me as an electrician, I had to kind of go the extra mile. So in 2009, I had just completed a 5-year union electrical apprenticeship in Seattle. And the economy was tanking. Found myself laid off when the building I was working on, which was going to be a office for Starbucks, shut down. They closed the project, didn't finish, and I ended up being out of work for quite a while. I did what people do in that situation. I got more certifications and licenses so that I could stay competitive. What I did was I got an administrator's license to be able to run a company or supervise other electricians for security gates and doors. And I went to work for a little company called FenceCo. But pretty quickly I could see the writing on the walls at that company. In that economy, they weren't able to stay afloat. And they went out of business. And so I went overseas. And when I started looking for overseas work, I was pretty discouraged. The boom at that time was in Afghanistan and Iraq. And people were, even though they didn't want to work in that environment, they didn't have a lot of choice if they wanted to make a good living. And there was a lot of competition. The companies were requiring that you have at least 5 years experience as a journeyman. Now, I had just become a journeyman. I had about 6 years of experience as an electrician, but not as a journeyman. So I kept getting rejected or just ignored. I did something I did something very high risk. I took my resume. I removed the personal information, telephone numbers for my references, things like that, and just made a general overview of my resume. And I posted it in an online forum for overseas electricians. I went to Indeed.com, went to the Overseas Electricians Forum, posted my resume, got a call pretty quickly. I think it was maybe 4 or 5 days. I'm sitting in the bathtub, relaxing, and my phone rings. And it's this guy named Butch. It's another American. He's working for an Afghan-owned company, a very small company based out of Kabul. And he wanted me to come work for him. And he sold me on throwing the dice, taking the risk. hopping on a plane and going to work. And they were not a well-organized company. They weren't a very good company. And really, I think the reason why Butch was looking for someone to come work there was that was how he could get out of his contract. I think they didn't want to let him quit. I worked for him for 1 month, just long enough to get paid, and it was incredibly dangerous. We were driving around the country in a Toyota Corolla. We didn't have the proper paperwork to be on the U.S. military bases, so we'd have to talk our way on. We didn't have any sort of security. And it was pretty clear that if I kept doing what I was doing, that I probably wouldn't have survived the contract. And in fact, one of the bases I went to that I later worked on for a different company, the commanding officer there was like, "Hey, don't drive back with these guys. We'll have the Red Cross fly you out." I wasn't ready to throw in the towel because I'm stubborn, maybe a little stupid. So they actually pulled some strings and let me stay on base so that I could keep working on their project and not get killed. Driving in a Toyota Corolla with a bunch of Afghans on the road between Camp Shank in Logar province and Kabul, really a dangerous area. So after a month, I talked to other contractors in Afghanistan. Once I was there, once you got one foot in the door, you're in. You know, the other contractors know, hey, this guy's already here. He knows what the conditions are. He wants to stay, so he's not going to bail on us, and we don't have to make a huge investment to get him here. So I talked to another company. They were like, yeah, we just fired our electrician. We need an electrician. We'll hire you. I said, hey, here's the deal. I'm not really free to quit the company I'm working for. I confronted the Afghans and said, hey, this isn't working out. You guys are not providing the security you said you would. Well, they told me it was illegal to quit. Now, I wasn't going to push the issue and have them freak out and take away my passport. They really have a different understanding of how the rules work, how the law works, and they felt like they had paid my ticket over there, so they owned me. So what I did, I tricked them. Basically, I played along. I made arrangements for this other company to pick me up in the middle of the night. I packed my bags. They knew something was up. They started watching me pretty closely. There's my interpreter that I had for them. The night I left, he strolled into my room with an AK-47, and just checked to make sure I was there. Later that night, they were all distracted. They were actually watching Black Hawk Down. They were so into the movie, they didn't notice me, slip past them out the door, slip out the gate, and hop in the vehicle of this other company named Reliant. Went to work for them for about 9 months, but really my goal the whole time was to get on with the big boys, to get on with Fluor. Fluor, KBR, DynCorp. These companies, they were the big players over there, and they were the ones that were organized enough and were in a position to employ people in a safe-ish manner and paid a reasonable amount and offered good conditions. So I worked for Reliant for 9 months. I kept climbing the ladder, and eventually I got on with Fluor, because once you're in, like I said, you're in. So that's what I had to do. That's what I had to go through to make that leap into international contracting. It's not necessarily what I'd recommend. I mean, I kind of took my life in my hands when I did that. But for that first job, if you're looking to get into this as a tradesman, unless you've got a lot of experience and a great resume, if you're younger and you're trying to get your foot in the door, you're probably going to have to take something that is a little shady, a little higher risk or a little lower paying. When I left Afghanistan, I was making almost twice as much as I did when I went, and my conditions were way better. I stayed for 2.5, almost 3 years, and I stayed that long because I was being well paid, and I had a ton of vacation. Every 3 months, I would take off for 3 weeks, and I'd go travel Europe, I'd go travel Asia. I got to go visit my brother in South Korea. I got to go spend time in Dubai, in Romania, in France, and in the Czech Republic, and Spain, and it's what launched me into the world of travel, of being able to have that lifestyle where I just travel and travel and travel. Now, eventually, the war got a little too close. There was a giant truck bomb, actually a septic truck. This was a poop bomb that destroyed a good part of the base I was on. Didn't seriously injure me, but injured a couple of my friends, and things got a little too close. So I decided to walk away from the table with my chips, basically get out while I could, and spent a couple years. Well, first I went to South Korea, hooked up with my little brother there, was living in Busan for about 6 months, spent a little bit of time teaching English there, under the table, really breaking a lot of rules. I was basically an illegal alien in South Korea, but it worked out. I did it for just a short period of time. Then I continued my travels. I had a lot of money in the bank, and I wasn't thinking about work at the time. So traveled for a while. In Ecuador, I ended up meeting someone that I fell in love with and started a family. So I live in Ecuador now. After that, went to North Dakota because there was an opportunity to make a lot of money there. Did that for a couple summers. I would basically go up for the season because working in North Dakota, since it's so cold, is really seasonal. I'd work and then I'd return to Ecuador and just live. Then last year I went to Antarctica. It's something that had always been on my radar, and I finally got the opportunity. When the folks in Antarctica see this resume where hey, I've worked in North Dakota and in Afghanistan, I kind of go to the top of the list. So got the job in Antarctica. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, and one of the most rewarding. It wasn't that great a paying job because there's a lot of people that want the adventure, so they don't have to pay top dollar, but it paid okay, paid enough, and yeah, it was a wonderful experience. I got to see things that most people in this world never will, and it continued to build on that travel extreme job resume that I've been building. So the foreman that I had in Antarctica over the winter months, he just tracked me down on LinkedIn and asked me if I was working. I was about to go back to Seattle to work basically the summer construction season in Seattle, Tacoma area. But he said, hey, apply for this company. Come out to Kwajalein Island. I actually have 2 friends that are out there working. Looks like it's going to be another great adventure. So my point of all this, the way to get into this sort of overseas job is, unless you've already built up a really strong resume, if you're a new tradesman, you start out by taking some risks. You might go work for a mining company in Africa. You might go work in a war zone. You might go work in a job that is much lower paying than you would normally accept in the States, but you're willing to do it because your cost of living is really low. Maybe all your expenses are paid for, and that's another thing. Most of these jobs I work, all of my expenses are paid for. All the money I make, I keep. So if I'm only making $4,000 a month, as an electrician, that doesn't sound very great, but if I'm keeping $4,000 a month, it's actually pretty good. Though, in Afghanistan and this job in Kwajalein, they pay significantly more. But after you get your foot in the door, these sort of jobs are all about relationships. It's about who you know. So you got to be really adaptable. You're going to work with some characters. Maybe some people you find kind of difficult. In a lot of these jobs, there's some really weird people. They don't fit in normal society anymore. That's why they're working these jobs after 20, 30 years instead of just settling down. But if you're adaptable, you're patient, you don't make problems with other people, and you show people that you can get along in these sometimes very difficult environments. Maybe Place like Afghanistan, where it's a pressure cooker, 12 hours a day. There's people are shooting rockets at you. There's a lot of stress. Or a place like Antarctica, where you're going outside and working, and it's extremely cold. And then when you're off work, there's nothing to do, and the food isn't very good, and you miss your family. If you can get along with other people and just put your head down and do your job, they remember that. And so those people you worked with, when they have other jobs, maybe a lot better jobs like this Kwajalein job, you're the person they think of. They'll call you up and say, hey, are you working? Would you like to come work in Kwajalein? Would you like to work on a tropical island in the South Pacific for a year and be paid very well and scuba dive in your off time? For me, the answer is yes. So if you are early in your career or late in your career, if you're at all interested in working overseas, think about these things. Take a minute to look at your resume. Take a minute to get on some of the job boards and type in whatever your profession is, and overseas or international. Look at the opportunities. Don't be stuck in a box. Don't be stuck in the United States watching jobs move overseas, feeling sorry for yourself, when you can take your skills, you can go overseas, you can actually make more money for most professions, and have a life of adventure and travel. I guess that's all I have to say. Wish me luck. Don't know when this will get posted. It's July 3rd today. I think I land in Kwajalein July 6th. Not sure how long it'll take me to get internet and edit a video and get it uploaded to YouTube. But again, this is Jesse from Fall Off the Map. If you like videos like these, please remember to like and subscribe. I will try to link below the How to Get a Job in Antarctica video. So if you're looking specifically for that information, look at the details below. And have a good one. Good luck.